We're continuing in the Dvar Malchut of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is telling us that now we're in the days of mourning over the first temple and the second temple that was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. It's really 3 weeks of mourning. The destruction began on Yud Zayin Tammuz, according to Talmud Yerushalmi, both the first and the second temple. The destruction began on the 17th day of Tammuz, and 3 weeks later, the temple was destroyed. And since then, we've been in exile for almost 2,000 years, wandering around and searching for identity, searching for truth, wandering around in the world. So the Rebbe is telling us that really, essentially, this is very good. We shouldn't be fallen by soon the good will be revealed. An example of this good being revealed, so the Rebbe was, in the year that the Rebbe was speaking, that Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbat. When Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, this year it falls on Motzei Shabbat. Immediately after Shabbat is Tisha B'Av, but Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat. So you don't fast. So the Rebbe says, not only do you not fast, but you're supposed to even be happier on that Shabbat, and you eat meat, and you drink wine. So essentially, it's a good thing. Not only that it says the Moshiach was born on Tisha B'Av, all these good things are, but the problem is they are in a concealed way. They're not revealed. We have to reveal them. But it's like a person that has millions of dollars in the bank. He just can't take it out right now, but it's his. He's got it. So that's what the Rebbe is trying to explain. It's here. How can we access Mashiach? How can we access the treasure that's waiting for us? And so the Rebbe is giving advice. That's what he's giving advice to do. Mainly, the Rebbe is trying to say it depends a lot on our attitude. Our attitude. Right? If a person gives up, then he's lost. A person that becomes depressed doesn't try, so for sure he's not going to succeed. But if a person tries and he fails, at least he tried. He's got a chance to succeed. But if a person tries to do something and he's sure he's going to fail like all the other times, then the chances of his failure are increased hundreds of percent. But every time you go with a positive attitude, and that's what the Rebbe is trying to say, go with a positive attitude because we are assured, Mashiach is going to come, assured, for sure it's going to happen. And for sure it should have happened a long time ago. Says the Rebbe, Yesh lo hosif, we can even add on something. Shebekaviyut, that in this year, when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, also the beginning of the Bein HaMetzorim, of the 3 weeks of what's called suffering, the 17th day of Tammuz, it also fell on Shabbat. That's in the year of the Rebbe it spoke. So it comes out that the beginning and the end of the 3 weeks of Peronius, the 3 weeks of retribution, this is an idea, they're not really retribution, but exactly the opposite. If the day that it starts off is Shabbat, then that shows that Chemdet Yomim, it's a commandment to get pleasure, to eat. And since that it says that we have to wait for Mashiach every day, even though this is one of the 13 basic foundations of Judaism, that we have to wait the arrival of Mashiach every day. Harigam Machar, also, it should be, we should hope that by the Rebbe, it said Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbat, there was no fast. So we should hope that tomorrow also there's not going to be a fast, because Mashiach is supposed to come even one moment. And even if Mashiach does delay, but nevertheless, this is a fast which is outside of the 3 weeks of retribution, because the Shabbat was already the first day of. So we see that it's possible for this mourning and misery and suffering that we do in the 3 weeks, it's possible for it to be pushed off. Says the Rebbe, in fact, when Shabbat is the first day of these 3 weeks, so it is pushed on. It's pushed off to the next day. So we can say, Shazam, Megala, this also reveals the inner point, the inner content, the theme, which is in these 3 weeks. as it is, corresponds to Chachma, Bin, and Dat. 3 weeks. How it corresponds to these three aspects of the Jewish soul. Nowhere in the time of exile, these three aspects of Jewish intellect, Jewish awareness, they are concealed. That's what we just finished learning in Torah Or. It's very difficult for us to think about and to understand and to realize the reality of God in this world. What do we think about? What do we contemplate? What is our reality? The world. The world. It's very difficult for us to arouse this feeling. That's the idea of the 3 weeks of retribution, and that where each week represents another aspect of this, our intellect, Chachma Bina V'das, that is in exile. But in the future, it will be true intellect, true understanding, true realization will be revealed when Mashiach comes. It's not just a person that's going to come, like it was in time of Moses. Moshe came along and he redeemed the Jewish people, but he didn't change the Jewish people's inner awareness of what God is. At the first opportunity, as soon as Moses wasn't there, they worshiped the golden calf. Mashiach is going to make it permanent. We'll realize who we really are all the time. Kasher, then it will be kivush, the kol eser artzot. Then these three aspects of intellect correspond to the three nations that we have not yet conquered. God promised Abraham 10 nations, the land which was occupied by 10 nations, right? And we up to now, it would start beginning with Joshua, he only got 7 of them. And in the future, we're going to get the remaining 3. Those are the 3 that are in exile now. In addition to the 7 lands that we have now, this will be the 7 lands we have now that's corresponds to spiritually refining the 7 emotional aspects of the soul. And the 3 aspects of the Kini, Kenizi, Kadmoni, those are the 3 lands we did not get that God promised to Abraham. These 3 lands, that corresponds to Chachma Bina V'dat. Then we'll have all 10, exactly the opposite. Since that the revelation of these 3 aspects of intellect are connected to the land of Israel, and when we have complete, our soul is completely activated, not just the emotions, but also the intellect is the emotion, then we're going to get the 3 lands, the 3 additional, then Israel will be complete. I don't know if you ever saw a map of Israel complete, but what God promised to Abraham, but it includes like big chunks of Iran and Iraq and Egypt, I think also. And these lands will be given to us with free will. Right? I'm sure the Iranians and the Iraqians would rather have Israel rule over them, not Israel the way it is now. Israel rule over them, Israel the way Jews are going to be when Mashiach enlightens them. Says, I'm sure that, and I think even the way Israel is now, they would rather have Israel rule over them than be ruled by their own people. Right? Despite what the United Nations says. This is like an advantage of light over darkness. Right? You can have a whole room full of darkness, and one person, right? The lights go out, can't see anything. It's dark. One person lights a little match, all of a sudden the whole attitude changes. Little by little, people's eyes get adjusted to it. You can see a little bit, something, right? But it dispels the darkness. It's the same thing is going to be also when the Jewish people get awakened and their minds become awakened, then that's going to awaken the Jewish people and the whole entire world. That's the idea of the future redemption. And that's the 3 weeks of misery that we're experiencing now are going to really be transformed to what they really are. They really are essentially good. That's the good which is found in the exile, the challenge and the blessing which is found when we meet the challenge in the exile. We can also attach this to the second of the week, the Torah portion of this week. What's the portion of this week? Okay, what are the 3 Torah portions that are read in these 3 weeks? The first week we read Pinchas. The second week we read Matot Maseh. That was last week. And this week we're reading Dvorim. What is the common theme of all these three things. Pinchas, Matas Mase, and Dvorim. What's the common theme that runs through the thread that runs through these three? Common thread. Hatzad Shabbat, what's equal in all three is it's talking about dividing the land of Israel together. Dividing the land of Israel. The Parashat Pinchas, in Pinchas, it says, Le'ela techalek at oretz. These are the people that should get the land of Israel, ach b'garal, but only with lots you divide the land of Israel. Right? Pinchas, it talks about how to divide the land of Israel. In the end of Parashat Pinchas. In Matot Maseh, it's talking about Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain. I'm sorry. It says Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain is they got a bigger part of the earth. It says we will Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain. They said we're willing to go into the land of Israel and fight and conquer the land. They had to conquer 7 years, fight against the inhabitants. Willing to go in, but we don't want our portion to be in Israel. We'll relinquish our portion in Israel. We'll give our portion. We want our land to be on the other side of the Jordan River, on the east of the Jordan River. The east of the Jordan River, because there's more land here and there's more, how do you say, there's more grasses for our flocks. They had a lot of flocks. So it says they got the Averly Yarden, Mizracha, they got the eastern side of Israel, where today Jordan is. They got this. That was a preparation for Mashiach. Mashiach is going to give these other three lands as well. The Keni and the Kenizi and the Kadmoni. So it's talking about all these three Torah portions that we read in these 3 weeks. Pinchas talks about dividing the land of Israel. Matas Masa, we read last week, that's talking about extending the land of Israel to include also Bnei Gad and Reuven. And it also says, Zota Oretz Asher Tipol Lachem B'Nachala, and it talks about where the boundaries of the land of Israel is. And this week's Torah portion, Parshas Devorim, in the beginning it says, Panu Usu Lachem Ubo Har Mori B'Kol Shechinad, and says, you're going to go now. God says, Moses is speaking to the Jewish people, and he said, you're going to go and conquer the land of the Eretz Canaani. B'Halavonon Ad Nahar Gadol, Moses tells the Jewish people where they should go and conquer, because Moses didn't go in with them. Moses says, I have natati lifnechem et oretz. I have given before you the land. God was speaking through Moses' mouth. I am giving the land, conquer the land that God promised to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, etc. And the end of this week's Torah portion, it also talks about fighting against Sichon and Og, two big, giants and kings. And they received Bnei Gad and Reuven. They conquered Og and Sichon, and they conquered these lands on the other side, east of the Jordan River. So all these 3 weeks we've been talking about in the Torah, dividing up, conquering and dividing the land of Israel, settling the land of Israel. Or Pratyat Miyoter are even more detailed. The Gimel Parsha in these 3 Torah portions are talking about dividing the entire land of Israel, not just the part we have today, west of the Jordan River, Elagam be'Evra Yarden Mizracha, also the eastern part. That's where Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. That this is the beginning of the conquering of the 3 lands, Keni and the Keni, the Keni and the Kenizi and the Kadmoni, that God promised to Abraham and didn't give to them yet. It began in these 3 weeks. What are they? Edom, Moab, and Ammon. Atidim liot Yerusha lati. They are going to be an inheritance to the Jewish people in the future. We can say that, and this is hinted at, the 3 aspects of intellect that come together with these 7 emotions, conquering of the 7 lands on the other side of where we are now. This is talking about the 3 weeks of the Gimel Shavuot, of these 3 weeks of mourning we have. When we read these 3 Torah portions of the Shabbat, and then we come to the Shevat and the Nechamta, we're coming to the 7 weeks of comfort afterwards. So we're hinting at these 3 weeks, we're hinting at the total, complete land of Israel. It'll be the land of Israel. Now, this is very important because the whole point of the land of Israel and why the Jews wanted the land of Israel, I mean, the ones that conquered, took over the land of Israel. Now, we're talking about the Zionists. They were very, how do you say, anti-holiness. They were very that's what they said. That's what they said, and that's what they felt, and that's what they thought. But that's not truly what they meant. Because deep in their soul, they were self-sacrificing for the land of Israel. And the land of Israel, whether they want it or not, whether they care about it or not, and whether they agree or not, is holy. And they knew it was the place for the Jewish people. Why? Because deep, deep down, they knew the Jewish people are holy. That's this level of Tzion we talked about, the inner point of Judaism. And eventually it's going to be that the land of Israel will be also holy. It'll be the way that God wants it to be. Not just the 7 lands that we've conquered on this western side of the Jordan, but on the eastern side as well. And the non-Jews will give it to us willingly, happily. Now we're serving God. This is hinting at the service of Asakan Eretz Israel. Make wherever you are into Israel. Now, the Rebbe spoke about this. Remember, we talked about it was last week. We talked about it. That a chassid came to the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek was in Lubavitcher, which is in like White Russia. And he said, I want to go to the land of Israel. And the Tzemach Tzedek said, make here Israel. Make Israel over here. Now, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, he knew very, very well that White Russia is definitely not Israel. And he knew that Israel is a actual physical geographical location, and it's set in the Torah very clearly and obviously that White Russia is not Israel, right? No one in the world thinks it is. So how could he say, make here the land of Israel? So the point is that a Jew is here to fix up the entire world. The entire world. How do you fix up the world? You fix up the world by changing your attitude. Moving to the land of Israel is not going to change your attitude. It's not going to change your attitude. Maybe a little bit, some, but it's not going to do exactly the opposite. You defile the land of Israel. The land of Israel is holy. The Jewish people are holy. To move to the land of Israel for any other reason than just pure holiness is disgracing the land of Israel. So the Rebbe said, you want to go to Israel? Wonderful idea. But first of all, make here Israel. First of all, fix yourself up as totally as you can. That means not just being devoted to God spiritually, it means being devoted to God in every physical thing you do in the world. You have to conquer and possess your place in the world wherever you are. Like I heard very good, I think it was very good. There's a Rabbi, Simon Jacobson. He's excellent. You should listen to him. He's very excellent. So, and he gives questions and answers. Anyway, so somebody said nowadays there's this big worry if the mayoral candidate and for New York is a big anti-Semite and he's anti-human, he's anti-everything, he's a communist and he's a Hamas and he's with. So they said, somebody said, listen, there's some leaders in New York say you got to run away, you got to get out of here. God, now is it? It's a message from the Lord. We have to go to the land of Israel. So they asked him, what do you say? He said, listen, Chabad doesn't run away. We don't run away. Right? We don't run away. we stay where we are and we make the best of the place where we are. We're not going to run away. Because if we run away from here, then you're going to run away from someone else. Right? If the world is what's going to decide what your Judaism is, then when you get to the land of Israel, the world is going to decide, not God. You have to find the Jewish power of defiance, the Jewish power of transformation of the world. It has to be awakened inside of you. Then when you go to the land of Israel, it'll spread out to the whole world. We're supposed to go to the land of Israel to improve Israel, not so Israel will improve us. We're supposed to bring out the holiness of the land of Israel, to utilize the holiness and the power of Israel to spread out to the world. Not that we're going to the land of Israel, that Israel should save us. Right? We're in Israel to save the world. So the Rebbe said, practice using your power of defiance, your power of saving outside of Israel. Vasiyota Eretz Israel, make the outside of Israel into Israel, because the whole world is God. God is everywhere. God is created. God wants to be revealed everywhere, not just in the land of Israel. Dear, the whole world should be a dwelling place for God in the whole world. But tachlit hashlem, with an ultimate completion in thought, speech, and action. That should be the preparation for La'atida in the future. The land of Israel is going to spread out to all of the entire world, influence the whole world. Yesh Lomar, we can say, let's see a little further. Here we go. Okay, Yesh Lomar, we can say that this idea of revealing the Mashiach in Tisha B'Av, because by the Maimonides says very clearly, and for some reason, I don't know how, but religious Zionistic rabbis ignore this. I don't know how they do it. But Maimonides says clearly that Mashiach will bring all the Jews to Israel. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go now, but don't think that that's it. I'm going to go to Israel. That's the Geula. The beginning of the Geula, the second stage of the Geula, it's not the beginning, and the Shminini, it's not the beginning of the Geula. The beginning of the Geula is Mashiach. And preparing for Mashiach. Doing everything you can to bring Mashiach. And if you don't think that, then eventually you're going to be giving away the land of Israel like they do now. And exactly the opposite of settling it. They let Hamas settle it. They let Hamas unsettle it, right? They kill the Jews that are living there. That's the idea of the revelation of Mashiach and Tisha B'Av. Ukafi shehu kashur, like it is in the service of the land of making the land of Israel. Mujas expressed especially in Mincha of the Shabbat of Tisha B'Av, Shabbat Chazon, Parshat Etchanan. That's going to be, we're starting in Mincha, we read Etchanan, this coming Shabbat. So it says that on Mincha of, by the Rebbe, Tisha B'Av was on Shabbat. By us, it's going to be Sunday, but it says that we say the prayer of Nachem on Mincha because that's when Mashiach was born. Mashiach was born on the worst day of the year. Why? Because we're here to make the worst of the world into the best. That's the idea of Mashiach. That's the essence of Judaism. Al Pi HaKlal, like it's known in the Torah, that the Torah is eternal. Torah is from the language of teaching. Kol inyanim shebaTorah, everything in the Torah is eternal. The Torah, not just for religious Jews and not just Jews living in Israel and not just Jews which were back then, who knows when. No, it's for every single Jew, every single place, every single time. The Torah's teachings are eternal everywhere. Of course, it has to be according to the time. It can't. The Torah, you're not allowed to say words of Torah in the bathroom, in the toilet, right? Because the toilet is not a synagogue. You can't say every place is equal. There are certain laws. The land of Israel is the land. In Israel, you have to give Meiser, you have to give Truma. Outside of Israel, you don't have to give Truma and Meiser. There's the laws which are only applied to the land of Israel and nowhere else. But nevertheless, the Torah applies everywhere. According to that place, the Notnim Horah, it gives an eternal teaching to the Jewish people in every time and every Jew in every place. If so, we have a question, if the Torah is really eternal and it has a message for everyone, it's a workbook and it's supposed to arouse us to do. So what could possibly be the teaching of next week's Torah portion? Bet Chanan El Hashem. Next week's Torah portion is Bet Chanan El Hashem. What does it mean? Moses prayed to God that he should, the most holy person in the world, Moses, was called Ish Elokim. He was a God man. God man. Moses prayed to God 515 prayers. It's a numeric of the Vet Chanan. 515 prayers. Moses said, let me go into the land of Israel. Not such a big deal. Huh? Moses was not requesting for God to split the sea or to bring bread from heaven. That God did. Just let me go over the boundary. Huh? Let me get past, passport check. Tefillah, Moses prayed, and he didn't get his request. If so, maybe this is just history, right? What can we possibly learn from it? I got a better idea. Let's forget it. Let's forget it. If Moses prayed 515 different prayers to God, please let me in the land of Israel. I've worked so hard. I've suffered so much. Remember what I did here. Remember what I did. 515 different prayers, and none of them worked. So we can say, listen, if Moses' prayers didn't work, so maybe don't say it. Let's just forget the whole thing. It says, no, you can't forget it. It's written in the Torah. The Torah is eternal. What is the positive message here? Rebbe said the answer is moving and Pashut. It's understood and it's obvious that the prayers of Moshe remain constantly in power. They are, how do you say, actual, relevant. What does it say? What's the word from it? There was a word for it. I can't remember what the word is. In Hebrew, they say batokif, right? Like you have a, you have a voucher. You go into the grocery store. I got a voucher over here. It says a voucher for $100 I can buy. It says that voucher was from 1943. Where did you get that voucher from? That's not valid anymore. Look, it says only for 1 year. The same thing, prayers of Moses, that was only back then. They're not valid now. So the Rebbe, it's not so. And that they retain their validity and they are effective, certainly, and they certainly will be fulfilled. Moses wanted to get into the land of Israel. He didn't get in yet. But the prayers of Moses are standing permanently, and they will definitely be answered. When we call Shechina, much more so, the prayer of every tzaddik. Here, by Moses, God told him explicitly, you're not going to go in the land of Israel. Don't worry, Moses' prayers will be answered. How much more so every righteous Jew and all the Jewish, like it says, a tzaddik, he makes a decree, and God has to fulfill that decree. God didn't tell all the other tzaddikim of the generations, Mashiach's not going to come, right? And we have to pray, please, God, change your mind. Mashiach's going to come. By Moses, he had to pray to God to change his mind. How much more so the prayer of Moses, that Moses is even the deeds of Moses were eternal. How much more so his prayer to Hashem? Good, he was praying to God to change his mind, but the prayers of Moshe are eternal. God changed his mind before. He said he was going to wipe out the Jewish people, and Moses changed his mind. And the Jewish people really deserved it. It's not a nice thing to say. They all worshiped the golden calf. And Moses said, change your mind, God. God said, okay. And now God said, but you're not going to go in the land of Israel. You struck the rock. You're not going to go in there. So Moses said to God, listen, God, come on. You forgave the Jewish people. They did a real bad sin. I didn't do such a bad sin. Okay. I should have talked to the rock. And I said, let me come in. Hello. What do you say, God? Let me land of Israel. Huh? Hello. Are you there? No. Okay, listen, God, just let me go over the border for a couple minutes. And what do you say? I'll go in and just look around a little bit and then I'll come out. What do you say? Hello? No. Okay, listen, let's do it this way. 515 prayers God prayed. Moses prayed to God and he didn't answer. Said he didn't answer yet. For sure, God is going to answer. Well, Befrat, and especially that Moses prayed 515 prayers, like the numerical value of Eschanan, for sure his prayers will be answered. Ilu zacha, the prayers of Moshe would have been immediately answered. God, hu haya nichnas, he would go in with all the Jewish people into the land of Israel. He would build the temple. Then the temple would be, the first temple would be eternal. We would have the true redemption, like it says in many books. But for whatever reasons it was, Hari Tfilas Moshe temporarily, Beshaita, Lonit Kaima wasn't fulfilled. Then B'Poel actually, B'Olam in this physical world. Why? Because of a decree, Shayata'az, that it was then that Moses had to remain with the generation that died in the desert, that we're going to learn. When the Jews wandered in the desert for 40 years, all of the Jews that worshiped the golden calf or participated actively or whatever it is, and all the Jews that refused to go into the land of Israel, they all died. They all died when they were in. So all those Jews from 20 years old up at the time that they refused to go into the land of Israel, they all died. So that was the Jewish people. That was Moses' people. So Moses said, you know what, when there's a raising of the dead, I want to be with them. So Moses remained in the desert to be with his people that died in the desert. But because the prayer of Moses and another 514 prayers They were of Moses, so certainly they will be fulfilled. It'll just be a little bit later. When will it be? 3,300 years later, the Geula Mitit Shlema, when there's the true redemption by means of the Mashiach. Moses says, was the first redeemer, and Moses will be the last redeemer. He will bring not only himself, but all of the Jewish people, those that died in the desert and the 4/5 that died in Egypt, that didn't want to leave Egypt. All those Jewish people will all come to the land of Israel, the Geula and the future redemption, that there will not be any exile afterward, in the third temple, etc. Yotzei Shur comes out that the prayer of Moses, Kaima, it was fulfilled, and it exists forever, and eventually it will be effective in the physical world. Rak lo b'zamanahu. Wasn't affected in the world back then. Only after a while, when there will come the future redemption. And then Moses will be the first redeemer and will reveal that Moses was the last redeemer. He will bring all of the Jewish people into the land of Israel. What is the eternal teaching for this, for our generation? We'll talk about this and much more tomorrow.